3, 2, 1. There you go. So, hey, we've got a couple people I want to introduce you to. And then I really want to open this up for questions. I can talk all day long, but you don't want to hear me talk. You would rather hear them talk, and we would rather hear you talk and answer those questions. That's the goal. So first off, let me introduce you to Randy Larson. Randy Larson is GLOO. He is one of the partners that's creating He Gets Us, or at least GLOO is one of the partners that are He Gets Us. And Randy, forgive me, I'm bad with titles. Randy, what's your title?
I'm in strategic network development.
Yeah, so he does whatever he's told, and he does a great job of it. And so really excited to bring him in. Randy has been our contact with He Gets Us. And so if there's questions centered around He Gets Us and this marketing campaign that's designed to connect people with spiritual questions, spiritual explorers, and get these spiritual explorers connected with churches like yours, that's the conversation that we're going to bring Randy in, and we can dialogue through that. The other person that, and he's appropriately already named himself such, Jeff Tilson, is in the room. And Jeff is one of the regional guys within Alpha. Alpha is this evangelistic course material that's designed to help churches connect with people that are called to Christ, and then walk them through a process where they're able to ask spiritual questions and engage with that. And so Jeff's in the room. Thank you for that, Jeff. And is there anybody else from Alpha that's in here, or are you the rep for this one?
Currently not, but I sent a few invites out. Might have some pop-ins.
Cool. Awesome. So appreciate that. I tell you what, to kick it off, Jeff, why don't you give a 60-second Alpha, kind of define that at a higher level. Is that okay?
Yeah, it's great. Hey guys, thanks. Just honored to be on with all of you. You guys are blazing trails in the church world. It's just an honor to be with you. Alpha, if you heard of it, if you haven't, here's just a couple sentences on it. Alpha is all about hospitality, listening, and dependence on the Holy Spirit. And we believe that when we have those in the mix, God can work in a huge way. So it is specifically designed. I think that's what makes it unique. It's specifically designed for those that would not go to church or not call themselves Christians. So it's question-based. We're not afraid of any question. We believe that questions lead us on a journey, and we believe that journey leads to Jesus if you ask the right questions. And so we just bank on that. That is what we're all about. That's what we do. Alpha's been around a long time, but it's been really cool through leaders like you to see how we can innovate it and pivot in virtual reality and metaverse circles.
Awesome. And so it's funny, I'm actually getting text messages from Randy. Randy is not deep in prayer at this moment, although he looks that way if you're looking at multi-view. His computer's frozen. And so he'll jump on in a second, and for pardon the break here. But the idea is signing up for He Gets an idea. Let me do it. This is my idea. When I look at these two opportunities, understanding digital metaverse church, physical churches that are doing digital ministry, if I were to write the playbook, this is what I would do. I would sign up for He Gets Us. I would flip the switch, and I would start getting leads of people that wanted to have spiritual conversations. I would have a volunteer team, or I myself would start an initial level conversation with these people, but realize that you can't go deep for long with these individual people. It's really better to group them together into a conversation. And so I would start to launch a series of Alpha courses that are fed off of what's happening with He Gets Us. Both of these are material, and both of these process very well digitally. You as digital churches, as metaverse churches, as physical churches doing digital ministry, you understand how to use these tools for communication. But I would find ways to have individual conversations, and when possible, connect them into a group environment where they can go deeper through Alpha. And at the end of Alpha, Alpha is designed to do something at the end of that. And if that's help them get connected into your digital church, help them get connected into your physical expression of church, help them get connected into a physical expression of church, if it's not even yours, like that's a natural output of what's coming off of Alpha. And so I keep focusing on alpha at this point because I think Randy's computer has crashed and hopefully he's able to come on soon. I would love to open this up. What questions, what challenges or thoughts? Let's focus on alpha at this point because Randy's not here. We need to get into He Gets Us. I can cover some of that, but from an
Hey,
alpha
Jeff,
standpoint, what are y'all
Jordan's
thinking?
also on our call, and Jordan's from our national team. He just jumped in.
Jordan, I don't actually see you on my screen right now, but I'll take your word for it.
It's okay.
Thanks for
It's
jumping
probably
in.
better
Oh, there
that
you
way.
are. Hey,
It's
there you
probably
are,
better that way.
Jordan.
You don't see me. Lurking in the
Thanks for-
shadows over here.
He's the guy behind the guy, the man behind the curtain. Wizard of Oz suddenly flashing through my mind right now. Sorry, but Alpha, for as we're talking with Jeff and Jordan, what questions do y'all have?
I'm wondering, how do you do the meal? Because in my experience, the meal has been the critical thing of engaging people, and how does that work? I guess is my biggest question.
I love that you brought that up. Yes. So Alpha's 3 components is all about a meal, a talk, and a discussion. And so honestly, like we're kind of in the first wave of this. Stuart, I might have you jump in on this. Stuart's been kind of blazing a trail to one of the first churches to jump in with Alpha. And so how do you replace that whole element of hospitality? So that's the value. Hospitality is the value. And so how do you live that out in an alpha context? I don't know, Stuart, you want to jump in on that as you've been week 5? What are you, week 5, week 6 into alpha now?
Yeah, so round 2. So we've done 1 full course of alpha, and actually only on week 2 of this go around. But I mean, realistically, within that VR environment, everything is in, out, right? So because of that, the hospitality aspect of it, without having the food being there, is just more of, hey, welcome, we're glad that you're here. And so what we know of alpha, or what I knew anyways, was here's a 25-minute video. And so people who are hopping in, if we did it that way, they probably weren't going to stick around, right? If they came in at the beginning, I don't know that they're going to stay for the full 25 minutes. If they came in the middle of it, they're now lost because they don't understand what's going on. If they come in at the end, like, oh, there's our video for today. Here's the credits. It's like, I don't know how I'm going to be able to participate with the conversation. So for us, what we did is we took those videos and we chopped them down into bite-sized pieces. That way, everybody feels welcomed and they feel like they can participate in the conversation no matter where they came in at in the event. So an hour-long event, if they come at the end, they can still participate in the conversation. If they come in the middle, they don't feel like they missed out on anything. And really, the nature behind VR as a whole is I want to be known only to the extent that I want to be known. So that element of food hasn't been a need per se to keep the conversation going.
Yeah, our invite on that would be to just continue to extend the culture of alpha. The culture of alpha is hospitality. That's the value. And so whatever that looks like in the room, in the world that you create, however you host that, I don't know. I think the sky's the limit on the creativity there. But do the people showing up, do the people spawning in, are they welcomed? Are they celebrated? That is the value that we're excited about. And you guys are doing it. And it's really, really cool to hear the stories come out of it.
Hey, Flat Cap, there's actually, I'm working on a book right now, be published in January, where we took Dave Ferguson's blessed practices on being a missionary, reporting it into digital and metaverse. And he too, the E in bless is eat together, share a meal. And so for the book, I'll give you a sneak peek. We're doing it as shared experiences. And so the goal would be, how can you share an experience with someone that you're knowing from He Gets Us? What's a relational component? Maybe it's having a long conversation where they get to know you. Maybe there's a relational conduit or component that opens up through the He Gets Us side that leads into alpha, or you take that group and do some sort of a unique online experience that works more for them. You know, this is really where, beyond like physical church doing alpha in digital community, as most of you are, this is where I think some imagination can come into play and start to be imaginative with this. That's really, I think, some of the stuff that Stuart's doing, where he talks about cutting up the videos smaller, what Alpha is providing, to make it more engaging in the metaverse to allow for more conversation. This is a season, even with these two tools, for imagination. And I think there's opportunities to think outside the box. And really, I would love to help with that, as I'm trying to help these two organizations as well think outside of the box with this. And so what other questions? I see chats coming up as well. Any other questions for now?
Yeah, so a question about bite-sized pieces that Stuart's been using for Alpha. So Alpha, another huge bonus is Alpha's given away for free, which is just awesome. We have so many people who've been impacted through the ministry of Alpha that we're able to give this thing away for free. So anyone on a tight budget, here we go. Alpha has got your back. What's cool about it is with just previewing the video, you could stop at any point. And I think, Stuart, you've even found some traction. One of the things we use is street interviews to just open up the conversation, and it gets kind of wild and you hear anything and everything on the street. And so Stuart's been pivoting some of those like moments in our videos, the 25-minute videos, to just turn it back to the room and let the room kind of go wild on responses, which has been kind of great.
Very cool. Yeah, even with Alpha, I just discovered that Isaac Ferrer, formerly, down here in Fort Lauderdale, not that far from us, he now lives in Tampa. He created some Alpha material. And I was watching some of the sessions, much more modern, much more, I don't want to use the word hip, because I think if I say hip, that makes me unhip, but a much more aggressive approach towards the Alpha than what typically has been done. And so, even taking some clips and segments of that, I've always been, I love the fact that we have to ask questions, not make statements. And by questions, people dialogue, they engage. The more that you listen to them, the more they trust you when you speak. And so knowing some of that coming in, and Alpha's already baked that way, but even taking that further in digitally is very good. I want to say, Randy's back in the room, and so we can talk about He Gets Us as well. So He Gets Us or Alpha? What other questions?
I can speak to a little bit same as like what Stuart was saying, and along the lines of like the food, like because we do Alpha at City Rev in person, and it's really what led us to think of as soon as I saw that happening here, and with the exploration me and my coworker Chris have been doing in VR, because we've done all kinds of different things, tested a lot of different things. We've said, well, Alpha seems like a perfect fit for the virtual world. And the thing with the meal, like, because with the way that the metaverse works versus like real life, it takes a lot of time to break down those like initial like walls that people put up, because when you're in person, it can be awkward. It can be, you're coming to a church or wherever you're meeting at and meeting a bunch of people you don't know, and now you got to sit and have a meal and talk to them and get to know them. In VR, like, it's been crazy how fast real conversations can happen within minutes, even, that you can start to learn where people are at, what they're dealing with, just the things that they're going through. And I will say, like, we did the same thing. Do you guys hear that echo? Sorry. We did the same thing where we started with longer format videos, and we're noticing that it wasn't really working with the mobile. But we went with your student videos that are already more segmented, the Alpha Studio videos, and that works so well. Because they're like 3 to 5 minutes, and then we just put the question up with like a timer to kind of keep things on pace, but people popping in and out. It worked really well. And we've been doing that since like April, I think, and I've gone through a couple different sessions. The real difficult thing, I think, is continuing the connections beyond some of the like meetings and stuff, getting people to really connect offline, or just building more of a relationship that could turn into discipleship. So that's kind of like, I think, where we're at right now, and trying to figure out that next like step of how do we build deeper relationships after connecting digitally with someone.
Awesome. Hey, and I see Marcos, you know, you were Robert before, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's the guy, but no, it is. Marcos, is great to see you. Marcos is with, actually, Jeremy, do you know Marcos? You guys are in the same, you're in backyard. Both are in Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah, we've talked, and he actually, my buddy Michael is on staff at his church now as a teacher. So we're connected in our exploration of the metaverse.
So Marcos, you've done Calvary, Fort Lauderdale VR. I know you guys have done Alpha for a long time at this point. Why don't you just talk a little bit here, Alpha wise, what you're seeing?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so Calvary VR stemmed from the idea of, as you guys know, like extending our in-person into virtual reality. So we look very much as what we're doing in VR as an extension of what's happening on the property, right? So we do similar things.
Hey, you're muted. It's a pretty
So we
neat
do
trick.
similar
While you're
things.
talking, mute yourself.
Yeah, sorry
Well
about
done.
that. So we do similar things like recovery, Bible studies. We have all of our services streaming live. It's an extension of what's happening. And so naturally, Alpha is something that we started actually back in March of 2021. We started the entire effort back in January, but soon we found out that with the reception that we've been getting on Sunday services, that we needed a next step. And we needed to, there were people making decisions or very interested in knowing more about this Jesus that we're presenting in virtual reality. And it's been really, really, really great to use Alpha as that next step for us. We promote it after every single service. We still do today. And we basically say, hey, if you've enjoyed our Bible study, if you enjoyed recovery or even our services, come to our Alpha at 1 p.m. Eastern time, you know, and big screen and so on. And that's actually our second most popular, outside of the services, our second most popular meetings that we hold in VR. And yeah, it is all about hospitality. It is all about just loving on people and making them feel comfortable. We discuss, you know, we're going to watch a video together. The durations of the videos, I haven't had a problem with so far. I think that everybody's there pretty much just solid looking at it. And then it usually just sparks the type of conversation, discussion that we're hoping for. So that goes really, really well. We've had over 160 plus attendees to Alpha during this time. Those are people that have made like a first time decision on our services. And then also including people that are just passersby that are sit there for a while and then leave again. So we're really excited for that. So yeah, it's been pretty awesome for us.
Hey, thanks for sharing. Marcos, you're on big screen, right?
Yeah.
With and I think that's an inherent difference between what Stuart's doing and what Marcos is. There's pros and cons, but the world of big screen is basically the equivalent of Netflix for virtual reality. And so people are walking into that, the more designed and more expecting a long view. Now, the downside is that's not as strong of a community, and I'm not judging, but it's not as strong of a community as what you would get in alt space, which is where you're seeing Stuart. In Stuart, because it's more interactive, because it's more virtual reality, because it's not Netflix-esque. It's going to be shorter views. What have you done for me lately? Keeping me entertained, where people are probably going to be more patient in big screen. And so, like, if your church is in alt space, then you're doing it in alt space. But like Marcos and their church is in big screen, and so they're getting the longer views. Just recently, I heard, interestingly, another conversation, but Life Church has moved theirs, I believe, to big screen within the past month, because there it's a more of a video strong product, what Life Church is doing, as opposed to more avatar based, what some of the other churches are doing in all space.
Yeah, definitely. Big screen people are there to ingest content, and they're looking for it. They've got it on to receive media or content, and so it just fits what we're doing better.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got some people echoing a question. Christopher, how do you move people into Alpha? Wait for a certain number of interested people, choose a start date first, and then fill the sessions. How have you guys started this? So we've got Marcos and Stuart, I know, that are doing it in VR. Is there anybody doing this digitally right now, Alpha? Could speak into that. Okay, well, at least on VR, what have you guys done when you've been starting this out? Marcos, why don't you go first?
Yeah, so to understand the question is, how do we get them into Alpha? Is that the question?
How'd you get started?
Oh,
like group people on a waiting list and then start, or announce a date and then try to squeeze people on the waiting list?
No. Like I said, we basically build it up as a next step. The second, any one of our services that we provide inside virtual reality, that is literally the next step. We invite them to Alpha course, and so they'll
you've
sign
got
up.
like the first of the month, every 2 months, you just start a new class. It's always cycling and rolling.
Yeah, we never stop. We go right
Okay.
from the first video to the last one, then right to the first video to the last.
Okay.
Never
Stuart,
stop.
what are
every
you doing?
single week.
Yeah, so the beauty for AltSpace is they have their main event board. So as long as you've met their qualifications once for it, we just create the event and launch it, and people can find it and enter in whenever they want. So.
Okay.
Yeah, my coaching or encouragement around that would be, you guys are seeing spiritual curiosity like crazy. And I think that's where Alpha meets people where they are, is they're asking questions that people really care about and really want answers to, or they have opinions to that question that they want you to hear, whether it agrees with you or not, And so as much as possible to platform the question-based culture of Alpha, that just in Stuart and my conversations, man, that is where the whole guinea pig came from. It was just, man, there are big questions being asked. Where do we find a question-based culture that would invite these people in, and not just invite it and tolerate it, but like celebrate the questions that they have. So that's been really fun, but broadcast that spiritual curiosity. And I think people will be all over that.
Yeah, and if I could even speak into that, like Jeff just said, for us, that was really what started the whole thing on our end. Was we're doing Sunday service, streaming in our service that's going on in IRL, and all of a sudden we have this guy that popped in from LA who got done working a graveyard shift, couldn't fall asleep, throws on his headset. I noticed him walking around our environment. I asked him, "Hey, do you have any questions?" Like, "Nope, not at all. Just taking it all in." Great. If you have questions, I'm here to connect. And so he finally comes up to me towards the end. He says, "Look, I don't believe what you believe in." I'm like, "Perfect. Like that's what we're here for." He says, "But I've always had questions about religion, whether that's Buddhism, Hinduism, Christianity, Islam, whatever. You'll never find me walking into the brick and mortar of the church to ask these questions. I don't feel comfortable walking into those places." He says, "And I've always been too afraid that I'm going to offend people with my questions." And I just told him, I was like, "Okay, so one, I'm glad that you're here. That's the reason why we're in this environment. Two, you can ask me any question that you want. You're not going to offend me. And more importantly, you're not going to offend my God wanting to get to know him better." So it's based off of him asking those questions. I was just like, Jeff was already running Alpha for us here in real life. And I was like, dude, I'm just going to take this and run with it, because that's what people are asking for. The majority of the events that I see in AltSpace that have people coming in and sticking around for any length of time are conversational, whether it's ask an atheist anything. I have questions about life and death. I have questions about whatever. So it's like people have questions. So let's build up the platform to allow them to have the voice and letting them know there's no such thing as a dumb question. I think that once you've broken down those barriers, the hospitality aspect of things, you'll find people are going to be way more open to asking questions. And in fact, we've had tons of there's been an uptick of Muslims in AltSpace as of late, who I think their overall goal is to infiltrate and saturate our events with their own belief system. But what it's doing is actually causing even more questions to come about, and just allowing people to further their spiritual journey on whether or not they want to grow closer to Jesus or grow further away. But at least they're starting to draw lines in the sand, which realistically is the biblical concept, either hot or cold. And so we're providing that platform to make it happen.
Very cool. Hey, we've got some questions in chat. Flat Cap, I see your couple, and Nicole, I see yours as well. Let me walk through something here with David, talking about how maybe all this fits together. So David, reading your question, I'm understanding you're doing some sort of services online. You probably have some sort of a community set up. He Gets Us is a front door to your church, just in the same way that your Sunday morning service is church. And so you're doing your services on Church Live. Hopefully that's feeding into some sort of a digital community, Discord, Mighty Networks. I'm going to use the word async. If you don't know what an async is, let's offline and talk about that. But you've got a community set up where you're communicating to people on throughout the week. And so the goal would be for you to utilize your church services. So maybe people have spiritual questions, feed them into Alpha, as well as maybe starting a new front door for your church of He Gets Us. You're probably not going to point people from your church service to He Gets Us, because the idea of He Gets Us is to answer spiritual questions and to get people connected to your church. You already have people who know who you are. And so the people who know who you are, get them connected into Alpha. People who you are meeting for new that you've never met before, that you're meeting through He Gets Us. That's where I think you can do this idea of the blessed practices. You meet these people, begin with prayer, you listen to them, you share in some sort of an online experience, you serve them, and then you share Jesus with them. And I think that whole blessed thing through He Gets Us feeds into what's happening with Alpha, where now you're pulling people that have spiritual questions from your physical church or from your digital expression of church, from your YouTube live. And then you're also feeding them in from He Gets Us. This is where you can have a connection point and start to crowdsource an evangelistic arm of your church digitally from two different sources. Hopefully that makes sense. If not, ask some questions. Yeah, David says he's good there. Flat Cap, you had some questions, Holy Spirit, some things, and you're well-versed, it sounds like, in Alpha. So why don't you ask some questions here and get some of that worked out?
I was just sensing a couple of different things, like we're going and this is happening and people might be coming in and out. So is there a point at which, like, for instance, no, at this point, we're not open anymore. You might be able to join the first 3 weeks that we're going and you could get caught up. Or Stuart, you were talking about even people coming in and out while it's happening. Are there times, for instance, like, because I've done the Holy Spirit weekend, and even people who've been in the church are a little weirded by this whole thing, and you want them there the whole time. So how do you engage that piece? Do you do it as a weekend? Do you do it as we're doing it weekly? Because I've done it that way before too, as an option. I'm just trying to get some idea of, is there a break point? You say, no new people in this for the rest of the sessions, or just some ideas around some of that stuff was all my question was about.
That's good.
Yeah. So for the Holy Spirit weekend getaway, what we did is we told everybody that was showing up there that we're just running a 3-week series on the Holy Spirit. So for the next 3 weeks, this is where we're going to sit. So for the people that were there the first week, we said, come with us on this journey for the next 3 weeks to get the full picture. If they came in the middle, we said, hey, here's the catch up. If they came at the end, here's the catch up, right? So we never tell anybody like, hey, come back on the next go around. We just welcome everybody in no matter where they're at. And in the same way that I think Marco said, we just keep rotating this thing through. So it's never stopping. It's always ongoing. It's just a staple main event for us at this point, knowing that everybody's going to find themselves on a different part of their spiritual journey. The new thing that I'm currently working on, especially with my team, because we run different events throughout the week in Alt Space. So I think we're up to 4 different type groups that are meeting in Alt Space. And the biggest thing, as Jeremy said, is like the retention. Like, how do you get people to move from Alt Space for further conversation and so on? So the biggest thing that we're doing is really heavily relying on Discord and telling people, let's keep the conversation going, to join us over here. And so we're going to start building out channels specific to each of those events. So even some of the questions that we're asking in the Alpha event for that week will be the same questions that we ask again in Discord, just to keep the conversation going. And what it does is it even invites people who aren't joining us currently to see those questions, get involved, and then they might find themselves hopping over to join us for the event in Alt Space. So that's some of the stuff that we're tweaking now, because we are seeing the same thing. Like, cool, we had 12 people, let's say, like actually the first time that we ran Alpha in Alt Space, we had 22 people show up. And of those 22 people, I would say 14 to 15 of them stayed from beginning to end, which is probably the most success that we've had for any of our events thus far. But to not see those same 14, 15 people again, or to see a fraction of that was just like, oh man, we had this really high moment that came to like this crashing valley low. But I think if we can just get it over to Discord, keep the conversation going throughout the week, I think that's going to be the key answer. We'll find out. It doesn't hurt to try, but at the same time, if we can catch anybody throughout any of those events and bring them over to help them either move the next step on their spiritual journey or begin their step on the spiritual journey, we just see it as a win.
That's
guys,
great
this
feedback
is
on.
a huge,
Go ahead, Jeff. I'm sorry.
For us to press into you all on how you take a Holy Spirit weekend if you were to run an alpha in virtual reality, and how do you make that work for your context. So this is a brand new experiment for us at Alpha USA. And so how do you take those power-packed back-to-back Holy Spirit sessions and actually make that work in virtual reality? We would love to learn that, guys. So a huge give back to us is like, because a part of our culture is, hey, we're going to give this away for free, and we want it to work in your context with your people. Like that is our heart. And so if you guys find a way to do that works, we would love to hear that back. That would be super, super beneficial for Alpha USA and the global organization called Alpha. We just love it, guys. That would be huge. So much fun.
Awesome. I wanted to talk a little bit about He Gets Us, but while we're on Alpha, any other questions? Any other thoughts? We can come back to it here in a little bit. Cool. Hey, there was a question about national with Gets Us. Here's the reason why I think that digital churches that understand digital ministry, and even metaverse churches at some level, this is why I think He Gets Us can be so successful on getting people connected into your church. Because once you understand how to converse and disciple somebody digitally, it doesn't matter where you are and they are. You can get the work. You can get the job done. The majority of churches that are in He Gets Us, and I don't mean to be rude by saying this, is they're not able to keep up with what's happening. There is literally more demand for churches than the supply of churches. And the physical churches that are engaging in He Gets Us don't understand digital discipleship. And so the limited reach of the majority of the churches in He Gets Us is 15, 20 miles, 30 miles around their physical church. You know, and I've already had conversations with some of those churches. Yeah, but Jeff, He Gets Us gives us somebody from a different city. I mean, it's the equivalent of, I've got a lot of friends from Fort Lauderdale in here. I'm in Miami, and I don't know how to minister to somebody in Fort Lauderdale because they're not going to drive an hour down to my church.
Right.
This is the problem this is the problem that I believe we can solve with He Gets Us. Because if you understand, well, Randy, why don't you maybe speak to this a little bit with the potential what could happen as a result of a national reach with some digital churches in here?
Yeah, I'd like to show visually. Can I share my screen?
You should be able to. I don't have any permissions on.
I'm going to show you guys. This is what we call our heat map. And it shows all of this red are people that are responding to any of GLOO's outreach partners. So He Gets Us is our biggest outreach partner that's running ads on social media, television, billboards. We also have our own ads called Churches Care, which are really focusing on felt needs like loneliness, relationship problems. We're getting ready to sign a deal with The Chosen. So anyone that watches The Chosen TV series and then after wanted to connect with someone, they would be one of our outreach partners as well. But this red is just showing all the people that are responding to He Gets Us, Churches Care, The Chosen, JesusCares.com. Okay. And then these green dots, if you scroll in a little bit closer, are the churches that are participating with us. So the ideal here is we get them connected to a place where they can have a relationship with someone. The problem that we're having is, so this is Dallas and it has a pretty good supply demand of local churches to explorers. But I want to show you Atlanta. Atlanta is probably our biggest problem area in that if we just had a local strategy, okay? Look at how many digital explorers are here and a lack of churches that are there to respond, We have a few churches up here in the northwest. So that when an explorer is not within 20 miles of a local church, they are thrown in a big bucket of churches that are willing to do national explorers. And there's just a handful of those. So when I met with Jeff, a couple months ago, he asked the question, what do you do with the people that respond that aren't connected to a local church? And I said, that's a main problem that I think your digital churches could solve for us, because a couple of reasons. One, you guys are not dependent on geography. You're willing to build relationships with them wherever they're at. And then the second thing is that a lot of our local churches that are so building, they're so used to doing things in the building. This whole digital discipleship thing is something that they really want to learn and they really want to figure out, but it's been a steep learning curve. What I love about partnering with theChurch.digital is that you guys have been doing this and know how to just pace yourself and have conversations with people, and when to ask spiritual questions, when to listen. So I'm excited about the partnership, and especially with Alpha, because I love the idea of pointing them to a place where you don't have to be a believer, you don't have to agree with everybody in the room, and it's a safe place to ask questions. So I think that the possibilities are incredible.
Awesome. Hey, Flack, go ahead. Somebody asked a question. Keep talking.
Yeah, well, real fast. So just so you guys know, from a national level at Alpha, with the connection of He Gets Us to Alpha, we're actually finding that the jump from He Gets Us to Alpha might still be too big for people to make. To go from a He Gets Us and then jumping into a multi-week course. So what internally, now this is like kind of secret, but I'll let you guys know. Internally, we're actually creating a bridge course to extend from Alpha to He Gets Us. And it's really going to be a 3-week course around the human longings of identity, belonging, and purpose. And it's like this taste of what Alpha could be like. And then with this idea of like, come on Alpha, to explore even more what it could be like. When is it going to be ready? I have no idea. But we just, Fist of Five, we all did it. The national team said we needed to do this. So just so you guys know that it's coming. I don't know exactly when, but I think if I'm wrong, Randy, Super Bowl is a big marker, right? For He Gets Us.
Huge. Yeah.
So I think we're trying to do Super Bowl with them.
Yeah. There's a lot of really exciting things coming out. And the way He Gets Us is thinking gets me so excited. A lot of Christian media is kind of cringy. It's preachy, it's pushy, it's not well done usually. But the He Gets Us stuff is so raw, so right to the point. And it's not trying to preach a message. It's just, hey, are you curious about Jesus? Like he understands you more than you think. Like he's more relevant to the felt needs, the challenges that you're going through, and can be a resource. So really exciting. And I think doing a jump from, hey, I got this digital explorer through He Gets Us to I automatically invite them to Alpha, it would be a mistake for sure. And we've seen local, physical churches doing the same thing. It's like someone's like, hey, I'm really struggling with my mental health. And a church responds, well, great, we have a church tomorrow at 11. And it's like, oh, you don't see me, you don't understand. Like, I just want someone to talk to. So I think it would be great to just have some conversations with people. And then when it feels right and you use discernment to say, you know what, I think pointing them to an experience would be the next best step. I think Alpha would be a great experience for that. One of the neat things that comes with GLOO and the He Gets Us experience, I don't know if this is as helpful to you guys in the digital world as it is to the local world, but what we have found is that when people respond by email, only 10% of emails get opened up, right? So we built in a texting platform, and texting kind of allows you to get into people's inner circle. We found statistically 90% of text messages get opened and are responded to in 30 minutes, 98% of the time. So we've put in a free layer of texting as a way to respond to people, which it has that kind of, it's not as invasive as getting a phone call from someone that you don't know, but it's not as cold and corporate as an email. So it kind of has a nice in-between feature. So I don't know what Discord or the ways that you're responding to people, but the texting is a nice feature for communication for sure.
Yeah, I mean, the majority of digital pastors would know, connect with people on the platform that they came to you on. And so obviously
Yeah.
if somebody's in Discord, stay in Discord. But if you don't, the idea of texting through He Gets Us and the open and response rate that they're finding with explorers, with people that are cold. I mean, there's great value in that, and would encourage that moving forward. So some great feedback and ideas. The idea of clicking national is I would it's been stated to me this way. I had a friend, Tyler Sansom, many of you know him. He signed up for He Gets Us here. He clicked national, and within 6 hours, he had 6 leads in his inbox. And so the demand of this is very strong. Tyler actually paused it at that point, followed up with the 6, 4 conversations out of the 6. 3, he said, were very strong in engaging and dialoguing moving forward. And so national will open up a much larger spout and will allow more to come in. So do it when you're ready and when you have your system and infrastructure set up. But as I said on one of the streams I did last week, you're going to need stories to cast vision to this, to your church, to your volunteers. And so turn on national, get a half a dozen people, learn something from the process, and then figure out what you need to do afterwards. And obviously you're boiling the frog slowly. You're having relational conversations before you're funneling them off into alpha or anything. You know, that's where I think the blessed practices come in, because the L is listen. You got to listen to people. And that's a strength of a digital pastor and a digital missionary. And so take advantage of that in this season.
Jeff, can I interject real quick? I think
go for it.
The pause feature is I think it answers Christopher's question about what's the ideal size, and to follow up. I think it's hard to know based on your church and your location, and but the pause feature is really nice. And I know a lot of churches that are having success with this is that they started with just their outreach pastor responding, and then the pastor realized, like, whoa, there's way more demand here than I can follow up with. So he pushed pause, and found some seasoned people at the church that would be good at having these conversations, and then built the team, trained them, pushed unpause, and then did it again. There's another pastor, Jordan, at LifeQuest in Kansas City, that he took a totally different approach. He pushed pause, and he said, I realized that there's a lot of people with mental health crisis that they're going through. So I want to make sure that the people that are responding aren't overwhelmed by that. So I'm going to go recruit some people from my church that have some mental health, either like coaching from, like a mental health first aid, or there are counselors to handle that. And if it's a person that's raising teenagers, I'm going to find some people in the church that have some expertise in that and have really been in it, so they can have some empathy. So oftentimes we're seeing pastors push pause, build their teams, unpause, and learn as they go. And it's really nice to be able to pause, even if you're going on vacation, or even if you're noticing in yourself, like, man, I'm, being fully present with people that are really hurting is taking a toll on me. Like, I need to push pause and step back and take care of myself, and not feel this pressure that, man, hurting people need my attention right now, even if I'm not in a place to take care of them. So.
What other questions do we have?
Could I actually jump in real quick? Because Randy, hi, I'm actually one of the national church people trying to figure these things out, and I paused it twice already for just what the purpose that you're saying.
Yeah.
We're going to need a lot of a variety of folks to help team wise and backgrounds, things like that. So obviously we're starting off. There's no real answer to it. I just want to let you know that myself and who Jeff mentioned before, we're just diving in because we feel like the Lord's in it, and because he is, and so we want to just be responsive to that. And I just want to first of all, thank you for letting us in on it. And if there was, I know it's set up like by zip code when you sign up, assuming you're a physical place, but then for those of us who aren't, I'm just wondering if there's things in the pipeline to maybe just, I don't want to say cater, but just to to focus on the people with no address, national type of stuff.
So nothing in the pipeline right now, but I think the reason is because we've had so few national churches, But one of the things I love about GLOO is that we're constantly checking in with our churches to say, how can we make the product better? What are the challenges you're running into? So please, give me your feedback. I'll put my contact info in the chat. I'd love it if you guys would take that down. Anytime you have ideas, please send them my way. That would be really helpful.
Thanks, sir.
Chris, in many ways, Tyler, I'll get to you in a second. Chris, in many ways, we're the experiment. I couched us as the way of doing it differently and maybe more effective, and they should think more like us. And in many ways, I was pushing all my chips on, hoping that we would be able to prove them wrong and show how this could work. So I'm not saying, put your money where your mouth is, but literally that's where we are. It's just trying to prove that this model's valid and that it is effective in this use case, which I believe it is. So that's where we are for today. Tyler, it looked like you had a question.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for He Gets Us. It's been really cool to sign up and engage with those here. Randy, I have just a curiosity question that my lead pastor and I've been kicking around is, how do you gauge, this is gonna sound maybe rough, how do you gauge how effective you are in the responsing? I mean, Jeff, when you're sharing what Tyler Sansom's experiencing as far as the response rates and goes, like we're getting the responses, we're getting similar people following back, but how would you coach churches to kind of see, is it 80% people are responding back and you're engaging in conversations like, hey, that church is using it well, or how are you providing coaching to make sure churches are utilizing the tool the best way possible that you guys have designed it for, that we are taking care of our Explorer as well?
Yeah, so GLOO has what is kind of a crude version of sales, right? These are people that are going and finding churches to do this. And then we have a whole nother arm at GLOO, which is customer success. So once you sign up, you should hear from one of the customer success managers that's assigned to you within 48 hours. And then it's in our sales force to check in with you every 3 months to just say, how's it going? How's it working? Give us your feedback. It is really hard. We followed the strictest privacy laws across the country. Every state's a little bit different. California is the most strict. So we've just made all of our policies align with California's. So it limits how much we can reach out to an Explorer and just say, how is your experience? So most of our feedback is getting from churches of how is this going? How well are they responding? But if I'm being honest, like as a pastor myself, it surprises me how many churches just let Explorers just kind of fall through the cracks. People that are really, really hurting. So I would say the response rate from Explorers usually has to do with how quickly a church responds to them, what model of communication they use, and how quickly they're trying to get them in the building. So the churches that get, I'm just going to serve people and go at their pace are really effective, especially if they respond within the first 4 hours. We're seeing a major uptick if they respond. We have seen incredible results. If you respond within 15 minutes of when you get the Explorer, it's like 85% are like right there. The challenge to that though is that most Explorers are coming in between 8 p.m. and 10 p.m. at night when they're sitting in their bed, they're thinking about life, they're scrolling through some type of social media or watching something online. And it's hard, most churches are not open, so that's the challenge. We're trying to figure it out. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's helpful and in line with where I think it was going. And as we're responding, we're out of Wisconsin right now. We've stayed regional just because we're primarily a physical church with the digital ministry going in. I'm sure Jeff and Stuart, I don't know if they're leaning more national, but kind of went through that similar trajectory. National, whoa, overwhelmed. Trying to help people focus on regional, and I got a team that is just trying to respond. Yeah, in kind. Mostly, we've broken a female team and a male team is trying to guess as best as we can on numbers, just trying to make sure conversations are transparent and open and providing the best care we can. But that's very helpful.
Yeah, one of the when you talk about transparency and just healthy boundaries, one of the things I really like about the texting inside the GLOO app is that all of the communications on your team can be seen by the administrator, which is nice for a couple of reasons. One, for safety, transparency. Two, from a discipleship standpoint of coaching someone on how to have spiritual conversations. You can be giving them feedback of saying, hey, great job of showing compassion and empathy. I think there's an open door to ask them about their faith background, or, ask them if they've ever read this verse. And, you can kind of give some coaching along the way there and see all of it. Whereas some other communication tools, it's kind of more, it's just between the person following up and the explorer.
Awesome. Alexandra, I see your feedback just had my orientation with Brian from He Gets Us, and was very excited to learn and create about creating my own series and content of Bible studies. Cool. The relational aspects, obviously, of what you're walking in is awesome. So thanks for jumping into that, Alexandra.
Yeah, thank you.
I am, what Nicole said about setting up a team. That's interesting. Let's think about that. Maybe there's an opportunity for some of us that are small and starting out to network together, to build up, maybe gather together those launching a He Gets Us group for a set week and share what we're experiencing, learning together. Yeah, Flat Cap. I think there's some value in that. I'm actually traveling this week, so this is a horrible time to ask me that question. But to set up a weekly and every other week meeting, something like that, just to invite new people in that are doing it, to try to hammer out some of that, tie into alpha and things like this. I mean, look, I got 20 people, 18 people on a Monday morning to jump into this thing. So that's obviously there's a need and there's some interest. So we'll figure out some next steps, and I'll communicate that out. Well, if you heard this from me, then you'll hear it from me again once we figure it out. But we gotta wrap up here in just a couple minutes because I got another meeting. Any last questions as we're landing the plane? Well, cool. This has been really good. If you are interested in He Gets Us through the Church Digital, we're doing 12 months for free. Obviously, the platform costs money moving forward, but for 365 days or however GLOO assesses 12 months, that's what you're looking at. You can go to thechurch.digital/He Gets Us to sign up for that. Alpha is already free, and it's alphausa.org. And so there's a new trailer. Ant-Man Quantumania comes out with a new trailer today, but Jeff Tilson's got that beat. You can go ahead and check that out at the link there on Vimeo to see the Alpha trailer, not the Quantumania trailer. I have a feeling Quantumania will probably get some more views today, but eventually one day Alpha will catch up. And so that this is good. Flat Cap, you got one last thing?
Yeah, I did have a question. I put it in there earlier and we went in a different direction. With Alpha, I know that there is the marriage course, the marriage prep course, a few other things. Are they working on or looking to do those in a digital space? Are people already doing that? And how would those work? Because I'm thinking about how do we reach people with marriages that are struggling? That's great stuff. I love using it. Parenting stuff, I know it's there. I've not used it, but just thinking, I run into people who are in those realms often as I'm streaming.
Yeah, great question. Jordan, you may want to jump in on the national end of this, but just short answer is everything's digital through Alpha. We were digital before COVID hit. And so it was user ready to go when everything kind of went on lockdown. And so that is also true for marriage course. There's also a life shared evangelism course on there, as well as youth courses that are brand new. And Jordan and his team are cranking them out. I don't know, anything more to add there, Jordan?
No, I just know that you guys, like, the church is the critical piece of this, because if it's not working for the church, it's not going to work for Alpha, because we literally just equipped the church. So best practices are going to come from you guys, because you're in the digital frontier, which is arguably the untouched frontier for the church. So we need you to press in and tell us what's working and not working, and we will adjust things on our end so it will work for this frontier. Yeah. So yeah,
Jordan, you and I haven't officially had a conversation. You're going to find that the way that these people are thinking in here, probably going to be a little more aggressive and bleeding edge than what the typical digital will be. We can offline through some of that stuff, and I've already talked some within your team, but it's looking at digital community as a community worthy of a church, rather than looking at digital as a communication to drive people towards a physical expression. So would love to pick your brain on some of that, but that's going to have to be another day, because I got to be somewhere at 2. So, hey, thank you for doing this open office. And I'll just do one more thing. If you are not a part of our digital community fam, I would encourage you through Digital Church Network, I would encourage you to go to digitalchurch.network/join fam. We've got 2 or 3 links in chat. And so I'd encourage you to go ahead and click those. You can go to that join fam link, create an account for free, and engage with us over there. But yeah, we're going to shut this thing down and we're going to call it a day. And so for Alpha, Jeff and Jordan coming in here, Randy from He Gets Us, Jeff with the Church Digital and Digital Church Network. Thanks for jumping on with this, and we'll see you next time. Y'all have a good day.
Good to see everybody.